When you're lost in the darkness, look for the ClickerCast, folks. Welcome back, everyone, to a special limited run series here on GamerGuild TV, where we'll be breaking down each and every episode of HBO's The Last of Us, from its plot, to its characters, to its video game comparisons, and every small-sized detail in between. We do this live every Wednesday for your viewing or listening pleasure, so don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell, so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here at GamerGuild TV, including our live streams, our weekly podcast, the GamerGuild Podcast, where myself, Richie, and our other friends get together to round up all of the weekly gaming news. But of course, you're not here for that. You're here for The Last of Us, and you're joining myself, Chris, at Arcane Rogue on social media, and not Richie this week, my other brick to my bottle, my beautiful wife Nicola has decided to make your first appearance here on GamerGuild TV to talk about The Last of Us. Welcome.
Hi, thanks.
Hi, and you're nervous. You're a little bit nervous. It is a bit weird because it's also the first time I've made any kind of video content with you, but she's a die-hard Last of Us fan, I would say.
Yeah.
I would say, but you're not much of a gamer.
No,
so
not at all.
In terms of the content on the channel, there's a very good reason you've not been on anything before.
Because I don't know anything about it.
You don't know anything about video games. Although you have played quite a lot with me.
Yeah, but only really with you.
Yeah, that's it. You did a little bit when you were younger.
Yeah,
with, funnily enough, with Richie's girlfriend, with Spyro the Dragon and some other PlayStation games, way back in the day. But we're not here to talk about that. We are specifically here to talk about The Last of Us. And the reason I brought Nicola on in Richie's absence, why he's gone off to kill clickers and bloaters out there in France, is we've played through The Last of Us.
We have.
In its entirety, and The Last of Us Part 2. We've played Left Behind, and all the other Uncharted games. So you and me have a very good relationship with just Naughty Dog games in general, because I think we both have a lot of conversation to discuss when it comes to the characters, the plot, the linearity of the game. You don't really do the fighting elements.
No, I don't. I'm just not good enough at them.
Yeah.
Like I throw the controller.
You tend to leave
get a
them
bit
for me.
frightened.
Doesn't throw the expensive ones, but yeah, we tend to just kind of enjoy these games more because we sit down, we talk about them afterwards, and the plot and the characters, and kind of everything we do on this show. Which is why, with Richie not being here, threw it out to you. Said, "Do you fancy it?" A little bit nervous, but said, yeah, I can do it. And you can talk about The Last of Us because we do it every single week. Before this show goes live and me and Richie break it down, a lot of the ideas I pretty much ping off you. I talk about them, I listen to the official podcast, and then I kind of bounce it off you going, does that sound right? What are your thoughts on this? So we get into the psychology of it all as well. But yeah, you're here for your first appearance, maybe not your last. Richie will be back next week for the finale. But yeah, let us know in the comments below if you're enjoying Nicola's time here, and be nice to her. Be nice
Please.
to her. But yes, as I said, we are here to talk about this week's episode, which is episode 6, titled The Price, directed this week by Neil Druckmann. And I think as we get into the episode, there's a very clear reason why the guy who wrote and all the dialogue for the actual game, because this particular episode was pretty much full of flashbacks.
Yeah.
And a lot of it did the game one-for-one justice in terms of the dialogue. It makes sense to get the guy who wrote it to direct that episode rather than letting Craig, who's the other director, jump into that one. So this is Neil's episode. The writers, of course, are still Neil Druckmann, Haley Wigman-Gross, and Craig Mazin as well. But the plot for this episode is Joel is surprised as Ellie for her birthday. It should be birthdays, technically, because I think we see about 4 of them. Ellie prepares to confront Joel about her past. So, Nicola, before we get into the overall impressions and the breakdown, I always like to just get your take on things to start off with. What your thoughts were on this week's episode?
This was the one I was really looking forward to. When we played the games, you've said already, I'm not action driven. I don't like that sort of stuff, and I'm just really bad at it. Exploring and things like that is the bit that I really enjoy, and I absolutely loved the dinosaur museum bit. And I remember saying to you a few times, please tell me that they're going to do the dinosaur bit.
Yeah, they had to.
I loved it. So this was the one I think I was probably looking forward to the most. Again, not many clickers, not much action, just them.
Yeah, I think most of the budget went on action on that second episode with the big battle. So it's very much just let's get the 2 actors in a room, in a set, and talk about it. But yeah, that was my take on this episode. We knew from last week's teaser it was predominantly going to be flashbacks, and from the overall outset, it looked like they were going to take each and every one of those flashbacks and from the game, which is spread out over 20-25 hours of game.
Just to get through them.
and they're all compromised down to one 50-minute episode here. So it was great in a way from a different optics point of view to just see it all play out back to back to back with the time jumps. But overall, I thought it was a great episode. Such emotional beats in it. Had me on the verge of tears at certain parts.
I really, really enjoyed this one.
And I thought it was one of the highlights. And again, bringing Pedro back was always going to get. It's always good to see more Pedro. It does kind of look like he probably won't be back for season 3 because they've kind of done them all now.
No, don't say that.
So I know. So unless they wrote some additional scenes that they might want to get in there.
No, they'll bring him back. They've got to. They've got to.
Maybe his skeleton.
We'll see.
No. We'll see. No. But to get into the plot anyway, folks, we open up in Austin, Texas in 1983. So we've got a nice little flashback here. We see young Joel and Tommy a little bit worried. They're talking to each other about something that's happened. And that's kind of been a running theme of this show from season 1 through till now, is they like to add in new elements right at the beginning. So before we get the credits, it's like, here's something new. And I think I start almost every week going, what the hell's this? Where are we at with this? I don't recognise this. And then we get into it. So Tommy's been caught buying weed. His father knows about it. The boys are reacting badly, as any kids who get in trouble.
And he's a police officer as well.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I thought the police rocked up outside to arrest them, and then you find out, like, oh shit, it's their dad.
Like, that's a new level of serious.
Yeah, you don't want your dad to be a police officer if you're out there buying drugs and stuff anywhere. But yeah, we know the dad's going to react badly purely because of Tommy's reaction to it. He says he's going to get the belt, which I'd like to think we don't see that in today's society, but back in the 80s it was a different world.
Yeah, I mean, both of our parents have talked about getting the slipper and stuff like that at school. Yeah, so we know it's a bit more
in school, not even just at home, at school.
Yeah,
teachers,
like the ruler on the wrist or something.
Yeah, the ruler, and yeah, we grew up as that was, I guess, being phased out, like smack bums if you're naughty, all that kind of thing. And but we're in the 80s now, and we're in deep Texas, and clearly Tommy is just scared that something's going to happen. The repercussions don't look good. Joel, though, comforts his little brother, as all big brothers do, tells Tommy that he's going to cover for him. Don't worry about it. He's got it sorted. The dad arrives home, as we said. We find out he's a police officer. He's Officer Javier Miller, played by Tony Dalton, who if you remember Tony Dalton, he's played. You'll probably recognise him from Hawkeye.
I know the name.
So in Hawkeye, he was the rich guy who her dad lived with, and he's really good with a rapier sword.
Maybe.
He had like a curly moustache kind of
It's
look.
a name that I know because every time he's on anything, you just shout T-Dolt at the screen.
No, that's Timothy Dalton.
Oh, sorry,
James
is it the wrong
Bond,
one?
Timothy Dalton, yeah. I mean, this is another T-Dolt who's rocking up. But
everywhere
if Timothy Dalton was in Hawkeye, I would have made that known to you. But yeah, he was in Hawkeye, didn't really do much with his character. He was basically the rich dad who you didn't know if he was going to be the villain or not.
I don't really remember.
Exactly. He's in Better Call Saul as well, playing a younger version of a character from Breaking Bad. And he's going to be, more importantly, in Naughty Dog's next game, Intergalactic. So we haven't seen it yet. It is the spaceship one that I keep showing you, yes. With Nora's character as the main lead in that one. He's on like a picture on one of her dashboards in the spaceship, so we don't know much of them. But from this, we learned in the official podcast that Neil Druckmann, because of his performance in this, is what made him put him in the next game. So clearly getting some jobs out of working here, just like Tatiana Gabrielle as well. But yes, Officer Miller rocks up, grabs 2 beers from the ridge, not Miller Lite, actually Budweiser. Specific cans they were talking on the podcast is they got the very specific police car from that time period in Texas, and the beer cans, and on set they only had 30 of those particular cans to use.
Wow, that's commitment.
And if they'd have used them all up in the scene, they wouldn't have had the sit down, crack the 2 cans with Joel.
Because you're never going to get that, like...
No, you're not absolutely. All the very bespoke cans that were made to replicate.
Well, I mean, you could
80s.
refill them, but you wouldn't get the same.
Exactly. Joel's dad sits down. They kind of have a little back and forth about... Officer Miller knows that it's not Joel. It's that typical thing where kids will lie through their teeth. But as an adult, they always really know. They can see through. And this guy's a police officer, so you'd like to think his investigation skills are a little bit heightened compared to your average father. He basically says to Joel, look, I know it wasn't you. It was Tommy. I've spoke to the people involved. I spoke to the I guess arresting officer, whoever he's got in trouble through. He spoke to the other adults, and he trusts them. And what happens from there is, they kind of quickly start talking about when he was a kid. His dad, he stole a candy bar. He was made to apologise for it, but said by the time he got back in the car, his granddad literally just broke his jaw. Yeah. Which is
so sad.
Higher levels of violence than you would expect. There's one thing about, I think, hitting someone with a ruler, smacking the bum, clipping them with a slipper.
That goes past punishment, doesn't it? Straight into abuse.
Straight up, like assault, like actual physical assault. But Joel and Tommy's dad basically says, he broke my damn jaw before I got in the car. His mouth was wired shut for 2 months. Everybody in the area, I guess, knew why. It was almost like laying down the law, but no one's going to say anything. No. The 80s were a weird time. And he admits that he's hit Tommy and Joel before, but never like that. So he's almost like driving home the seriousness of it. And I guess what are you feeling for Tommy and Joel in this moment? Like, think like just poor kids, or he's clearly a single father. I'm garnering from this.
They clearly respect him, but they also know what he's like, and I think there is that element of fear there, which is always sad to see fear pointed at a parent.
Yeah,
and that's really quite heartbreaking. But at the same time, I think you can almost sense in Joel's dad that he doesn't want to be that way. Mm-hmm. He almost just can't help it, or he doesn't know any better because he's never been taught any better.
Yeah,
like we raise our child based on how our parents raised us. Mm-hmm. If you were raised to be punched, that's your example.
That's all you know, isn't it?
Yeah, and those are such forming relationships. I think it's quite a sad scene, really.
Yeah, and it mirrors a little bit the Joel and Sarah relationship, that he's clearly probably at work quite a lot. The two kids grow up on their own, hence why they end up getting into trouble a little bit. They don't have those parental figures around all the time. And again, in an era where there is no communication with other people, it's quite easy to see how isolated violence can kind of just continue to happen if there's no way of finding that out. Like, would the teachers at the time say anything? Would the neighbours say anything? And even if you reported it, he's a police officer.
Child protection is so different back then.
Yeah.
Like, it's come on leaps and bounds in recent years, so it stands to reason that maybe nothing would happen. Yeah, and it echoes the, I guess, thoughts of the show so far. It's that cycle of violence. Yeah.
Joel didn't do it with Sarah, but his dad did it to him. His grandfather did it to his dad, and it's that, like, at what point does that cycle of violence?
It's somebody trying to break the cycle, isn't it? It's somebody trying to get away from this life, and unfortunately, Joel's circumstances prevent him from doing that. Yeah,
and the dad says, he puts his hand on Joel's shoulder and says, like, I'm doing a little better than my father did, and I hope when it's your turn, you'll do a little better than me. And that's the kind of thing, he knows what he's doing is wrong.
He does, and I think it comes across it. I do love my children, but I just don't know any better, or I don't know how else to handle a situation like this, because all I've ever been taught is violence.
It's so juxtaposed though. It's like, I understand what I'm doing, but I'm going to go do it anyway.
It was a bit weird, but
it's like, come on. Especially as, again, a police officer, you'd imagine they'd know better, but then again, just rewinding the clock, back then they had batons that hit people. Like they would get away with a lot more than you don't do with a dash cam now or a body cam. And then we find out when his dad puts his hand on the shoulder, he's wearing Joel's watch.
Which I want to point out, I noticed before you did.
You did notice before?
I spotted that first.
You did. The little details. So yeah, we find out that his dad's wearing a watch. So obviously he has that relationship where that watch means something to him. Presumably when his dad passes on later on in life.
I mean, it's nice because in the game you very much, you know that the watch is important, but is that because Sarah gifted to him? Mm-hmm. And this actually, I think, it adds another level of importance. Is it Joel's way of reminding himself, this is not who I want to be, and this is the sort of father I want to be?
Yeah.
And then when Sarah re-gifts it to him, it just takes that on even more.
And it's almost, in a way, Sarah's fixed that relationship, that parental cycle for him. Like, she literally takes his money to fix his watch and says, you were never going to fix it yourself. And we don't know why it was broken in the first place.
No.
It might be something to do with his dad. But
Sarah's it seemingly doesn't cost much to replace, so there is a reason that he's just chosen not to do it.
Yeah. And who knows, in another world we'll get a spin-off series featuring Tony Dalton, and he will learn all about the backstory of Tommy and Joel and their crazy dad who likes to beat them. But then we cut to the opening credits, and we get the familiar HBO opening credits. And for this episode, they've added Pedro Pascal's name back in the title cards alongside Bella Ramsey. See, details.
Is his little spa thing there?
It is. So it shows up at the end. There's two of them again, because this is predominantly a flashback episode. So yeah, we see both the characters, both the spore strands in the focus. And again, I just wanted to touch on your thoughts for all of the flashbacks being put into one. So we get about 50 minutes of pretty much solid flashback here. Some in the game, some not in the game. But obviously in the game, they are spread out so much. It's almost like you get that little bit of levity while you're on this crazy adventure with Ellie.
I mean, for me, it was just a nice break.
Yeah. There's no murder or craziness going on necessarily. You get some really, like, sentimental moments. But this, for me, kind of means that all these flashbacks, as I said, are taken out of season 3. So as we get to the end of this week's episode, we'll talk about what is left for the future episode, like the finale next week, but then more so what does it mean for future development of characters. But yeah, didn't mind it too much.
I actually quite liked it. I mean, it does, I think, take away from them being scattered throughout the season, which would be nice as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the way that they used it to sort of explore Joel and Ellie's relationship and how that develops as she grows, I think was really, really well done.
Yeah.
And picking the same point in the year as well, it just makes some differences so much more stark.
Yeah, having that fixed point.
Yeah.
Like, as simple as a simpler thing as is, everybody can relate to a birthday.
Of course you can.
Everyone knows kind of the rules around what birthdays are.
Yeah.
Although this is a post-apocalypse birthday, so things happen a little bit differently. But yeah, you understand that. Yeah, jumps like, right, Ellie's 15, she's 16, she's 19, and it goes on like that.
It just explores their development, because I mean, girls grow and mature so much in them years that it's a really nice way of looking at it and picking up how much she's grown as a person.
Absolutely.
And how much she's discovered herself.
Yeah, indeed. We then open inside the Tipsy Bison, which I think is such a cool name for a bar in Jackson.
I mean, it looks like a great night out.
It does. The whole town looks fantastic. I'd love it to be like a live set that you can actually explore at some point. A bit like Hobbiton in New Zealand.
Yeah.
But yeah, we see Joel back in the bar. This takes place 2 months essentially before the season 1 kicked off. Mm-hmm. So we're back in time, but we're not quite back in time to the first couple of episodes. Joel's trading Lego bricks with Seth, that we found out works in the bar now. We also find out he used to be a policeman, which I think, knowing that and having just had the scene before the credits started of knowing Joel's dad's a policeman, he clearly has a dodgy relationship.
Yeah.
Rewinding back to when he pushed Seth over, when he confronted Ellie, do you think that's him just going like, I hate all policemen now, or people of authority?
I don't think so. I think it probably weighs a little bit on his mind, but I definitely think that the way he reacted to Ellie being verbally abused that's far more just a protective dad.
Yeah. Who's quite happy to take the aggressive route rather than
rather
than talk to him. Yeah,
they all are in the show.
So yeah, but I've kind of came around to Seth, although he was a bit bigoted in the first episode. He clearly means well. He's just a bit, again, a man out of time in a way.
Yeah.
In the podcast and shows I keep listening to, and there's so many things that you kind of forget and take for granted, is that in this post-apocalypse, especially in Texas and where Joel grew up and such, and who knows where Seth's from, gay marriage and civil rights and stuff hadn't came about yet. So when the apocalypse happened... I
mean, to my knowledge, it's still a pretty hot topic in America now.
It is. It absolutely is. And this is not the show for that. But in terms of like those living in this world, Joel in Texas, he didn't... Like that, his state was not in that position to accept that willingly. And Joel being like a typical middle-class man, you don't know what his relationship's like with that kind of scenario. So we see a little bit of that. He trades his Lego for something. We don't know what it is just yet. Then he gets back and we find out he's traded it for a birthday cake and something else for Ellie's 15th birthday that's coming up, which want to note that it's the first birthday he's probably had with someone since Sarah passed away.
It just means so much.
Yeah, well, it's his little girl,
He's
isn't
so
it?
important. Yeah, she absolutely is.
Yeah, and him, I guess, now they're settled in Jackson. They've been there 2 months now.
Yeah, they're settled into that father-daughter relationship.
He's known it's coming up, and you'd like to think their relationship after their crazy journey in season 1, it's getting to that point where now they've got like safety, I guess. Like just they've had a full 2 months of not worrying about infected.
They're just settling into knowing each other.
Yeah, not on the move. They've got a home together, which we learn about. So him hearing it's their birthday coming up and knowing it's their 15th birthday. I can't recall how old Sarah was in the season 1, but she kind of been far off.
Early teens.
Yeah, exactly. So Joel clearly looking forward to it. He trades the Lego for a birthday cake. And a piece of bone. He said we've got plenty of them, which I didn't know where they were going with this.
No, I didn't know.
At first I was like, why does he want it? And then I thought it was a dinosaur bone. Yeah. Thinking ahead to the flashbacks we're about to see.
I mean, that would have been really impressive if he's got lots of them
lying around. He's got Tyrannosaurus bone. I mean, if the museums are there, who's collecting them? Who's doing that? All you need to find is a museum and break in and you've got it. But yeah, we see Joel then kind of showcase his craftsmanship. He works the bone down to a small decorative piece for Ellie's guitar, which I've learned since apparently. This is why Richie would have been ideal on this week for the guitar references. When you're strumming it, it's where your hand kind of passes past the strings.
Oh, right, okay.
So where Ellie's got her burn on the arm, having it actually bone, like where he smooths it right down, would actually be really good for her not catching or making her arm sore. Right. Apparently it's where you...
she hasn't burned it at this point though, has she?
No, but he knows she's got scars and stuff there. So where for just the strumming, I guess it makes it easier, it's more comfortable. I'm sure Richie will explain that in better detail. I just thought he was just putting a little ornamental piece on it of a bone randomly. But yeah, we then see him proceed to kind of etch the moth shape into the guitar, which is so iconic from the game. You see that and it's like, oh, it's clearly doing it for Ellie.
But I think that's just that shows how much he thinks of her. To go to that level of detail and that level of care.
Yeah.
To make this really personal gift. I think Yeah, it's beautiful.
And he's such the craftsman as well.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's almost like if it was the real world, he could have his own Etsy store.
Yes, he could.
And sell stuff like Joel's Woodcraft or something. And he would just,
another way for me to spend my money on Etsy.
Yeah, absolutely. And some little coffee beans. He would have to give coffee beans in with his gift, as like just from Joel Miller's coffee. Because he does love coffee. We see him kind of perfect that out. And then all of a sudden we get like kind of a panic moment of noises downstairs. Tommy comes in. Ellie's injured in somewhere. Which disrupts him hiding the cake and sorting the guitar out. She's bent her arm while on kitchen duty. And I don't know about you and me, but we both thought she's either really high.
I mean, she was on a lot of painkillers.
Or in shock as well at the same time.
Tommy did say it's the pain.
Ah, yeah, of course he did.
So she was...
She'd been in the infirmary or something.
And I can't imagine that they've got like... They'll have a wide range of painkillers, but probably some really, really strong ones as well. Yeah,
and not the... They might even not know the dosage to give people. Like, I know they had a couple of doctors we saw in previous episodes.
But it's like paracetamol and ibuprofen might not be in massive supply, but maybe morphine is.
Yeah, true.
Like,
but she's high. She's
is.
gone.
She
almost defaults to like little child. Even though she is 15, her behaviour towards like Joel and stuff is like she's
still a kid.
She's very much still a child. Yeah, she kind of laughs a little bit about how she hurt her arm. She's got like a big grin on her face the whole time while she's clearly a bit glazed over. She says that when she burnt her arm, it smelled like pork.
I've said to you earlier, I have heard that is the case, that human flesh does smell like pork.
And it probably tastes like chicken as well. But she says like she's like passing out like, oh, I really wanted to wear short sleeves again. You can see Joel immediately like that father figure stepping in of like, Uncle Tommy's doing great, but she wants her dad. Essentially, you can see in that moment of like, oh, come here, baby girl, and he like says it's okay, and she almost like passes out in his arms almost. Such a nice sweet little moment. So not quite the birthday that he was expecting to showcase to her.
No, but I think it does show their closeness, and it shows how much they both think of each other. Like, he really cares for her, and I think she sees him as being safety.
Absolutely.
Which is,
that's what you want. So we cut to the next morning and we see Ellie comes down the stairs and we can see Joel frustrated at the table because Seth messed up on the cake. I don't think it was intentional. He's just maybe bad at spelling, or he slips his mind, or maybe he doesn't know how to spell Ellie.
Yeah, maybe he thinks it is Eli.
Happy birthday, Eli, it says on the cake, which got a little chuckle out of us, didn't it?
It did.
Joel so Ellie comes down, she's like thrilled to see the cake. Joel heads to get a knife for turning back, and then we laughed at this moment as well where Ellie's full on, face full of cake, big grin. She used her hands, just dove straight into it.
That cake looked really good.
In a post-apocalypse world, it must look fantastic. And then I guess it stands to question, would she know birthday protocol? Of like, everybody gets a slice, I get a knife, you blow candles out? Or is it a case of like, do I just eat this all to myself? Do I dig in? Or is this just Ellie?
I think she maybe knows, because it's just pure excitement. I mean, how many people in her life would have bought her a birthday cake?
None.
Like, that kid grew up in those, like, schools, didn't she?
The quarantine zones and the Fedra schools.
And I can't see them being particularly big on birthday cakes, pass the parcel.
No.
This is probably the first time somebody's done that, and I'd imagine that excitement is just totally overtaken. I'm just like...
And she wouldn't have expected it.
No,
again.
Not at all.
But, cake looks great. The TV food always looks great. I don't know how they do it.
Really nice.
It did. So happy birthday, Eli. And then Joel kind of continues to present Ellie with her next present, which is a guitar, which is the same one for one for the game. He makes that little joke as a gift, and he repeats his promise, like he said he was going to teach her in season 1. Ellie then kind of guilts him into performing for him very reluctantly. He doesn't want to. He's got like, no, don't perform. But then we finally get it. We get that rendition of Pearl Jam's Future Days, which we've been wanting, I think, since the season started, knowing how important it is from the game. We had the episode 1 of this season was titled Future Days. We had a few moments in earlier episodes where she sat down and Joel, and you thought they were going to do it and they didn't, and then I sat having this background panic of like, I wonder if they haven't got copyright for it, because that could happen in the TV world. One thing getting it for a game, it's one thing being able to broadcast it.
If they hadn't
it absolutely would. So it's great to see Pearl Jam and guess their licensees working along in tandem with them. And then he gets into the lyrics, and this is why the writers directors have wanted to keep this so strong from the game, because the lyrics are so mirroring of their relationship and kind of what's about to pass. And the lyrics go, if I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself.
You're not going to sing?
No, I'm not going to sing. I was waiting for that. No, I'm not going to be pressured into that. I didn't promise you anything. Everything I've found, dear, I've not found by myself. Try, and sometimes you'll succeed to make this man of me. All my stolen missing parts, I have no need for anymore, I believe. and I believe, because I can see our future days, days of you and me. And,
it's so lovely. It's such amazing lyrics.
It is. And I think
I had never heard this song either prior to the show. I didn't know it's a Pearl Jam song.
The game? Yeah,
no,
the game.
Yeah, no, but I didn't know that Future Days was a Pearl Jam
song.
Oh,
me neither.
I thought it was just made for the game.
Yeah. Is Pearl Jam Town Called Malice? Is that them?
I don't really know.
No, it sounds like them, but I don't think it is. But I don't think the actual song is sung like this. I think the original's probably a lot more beaty pop, whatever. I don't know. We'll go listen to it. But yeah, Ellie, in this moment, you've got Ellie just showing pure joy. You had the dumb grin, eat the stuff in your face with cake, and then she sat there with a handful of cake because he tells her, like, no, you need to wash your hands first. And she sits down while he performs. And it very much echoes Dina watching Ellie play Take On Me in the previous episode, where she's just sat...
Again, that was beautifully performed as well. Like the performances of these songs in the show are just brilliant.
Full stop. Like the acting and the singing.
Yeah, stunning.
Do we think Pedro played the guitar as much as Bella Ramsey?
Because there
were a lot more close-ups, and you never really saw him at full wide shot, which they really did for Bella Ramsey's
I am going to believe that he absolutely did.
Because he's a heartthrob and he can do no wrong.
Yeah, of course he can. The man's a walking angel.
But yeah, she looks up to him, and you can just see the awe in her face of like this raw performance of someone who clearly doesn't want to perform it, but he's doing it for his daughter. Yeah. It's that typical thing with our daughter where it's like, you don't want to do something for the 100th time, but because she tells you, asks you, Daddy, please, you go,
one more.
Go on then, and you end up doing it 50 more times. So you can totally see how no one else in the world he would do this for, but as soon as it's his daughter saying, go on, Dad, give us a performance, give us a song, he's like, I'll do this. And yeah, it's such a raw performance. And yeah, the scene ends with Joel kind of letting Ellie know that he understands what she did to her arm. He kind of like motions towards her and says like, I understand. And I was listening to a few of the other shows across YouTube and such, and they were leaning a little bit into like this potential self-harm talking points of this. Like, I've never even thought of that, but she's a teenager going through a lot of stuff. She's almost got like that survivor syndrome going on where she knows in her own mind of mind she was supposed to die potentially. Yeah. And she survived being bit with Riley. She survived Riley's death. In the show, she's been bit like 5 times.
Yeah.
So she keeps surviving. So that survivor's guilt almost. Is it burning up? She's like, she want to wear short sleeve shirts? Or is this self-harm of like leading up to something worse? And Joel's like, I understand. Like,
I don't think it's necessarily leading up to anything. I think this is I've gone through some real trauma in my past and I just want to be able to be normal. Mm-hmm.
Which, but I'd never thought of that, and it was...
it's definitely an interesting take.
Yeah, there was the new rock stars do it's a YouTube channel, they do like the Easter egg breakdowns of every detail, and he spent time focused on it a little bit, and I was like, I'd never really thought of it from that standpoint, but 15-year-old, really confused, shitty world she lives in. People go through that. Yeah.
I mean, we all talk about adverse childhood experiences, and now I think there's a list of about 40 cases that somebody can accrue through during a lifetime, and it affects how they see things. Obviously, the more races you've got, the harder things become, and the more it affects your behaviour. And let's face it, Ellie's got many adverse childhood experiences. More than your average. Many that probably aren't on the list.
No, being attacked and bitten by a fellow human, probably not on the list.
And you do have to question what that does to somebody, especially somebody who's still developing and somebody who's still forming those
100%. And the infected's one thing. Remember, like last season, she was attempted rape by a cannibal.
Yeah,
like that's such a niche problem to have as a 15-year-old. Is like, you've gone through some shit.
She has.
But then so we end that scene, beautiful scene. Then we jump ahead a year to Ellie's 16th birthday. To a 1 year ahead, sweet 16. The two of them are taking a hike through the woods. Ellie attempts to guess a surprise of what's my birthday present this year. Again, amazing dad Joel. How are you going to top yourself every single time? Like, the guitar's an amazing gift. I'd imagine in a post-apocalypse world as well, gifts are far and few between to get.
But I think that must make them mean so much more. Like, the sentiment behind them, it just becomes so strong.
Absolutely.
Like, it's one thing getting the latest iPhone, it's an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
Doing what he's doing.
And this stuff's pulled straight from the game. This is she's just guessing, like, is it convertible? Is it dinosaur? Is it like it's just that funny bit of levity between the two of them. And it's that dynamic that we've loved from, I think, Pedro Pascal and Bella's performance before. Is like, they're just best mates.
You can see the relationship behind the performance, can't you? Like, you can see that they just adore each other.
Shines through. We get a little bit of moment between guessing where Joel kind of inquires a little bit into Ellie's relationship with Jesse. He says he's got a keen eye for these things. And he's like,
he has not.
I see the way you look at him, and she's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no,
if you think so. And obviously we know that's not true at all. She gives him a little bit of an ultimatum, actually, doesn't she? Says, I promise not to get pregnant if I can go on patrol.
What a strange deal.
It is, but then because she knows she's definitely not getting pregnant, he doesn't, so she knows this is
it's
is
just
something,
a way to get what you want.
this is something I can say that from a father point of view, he's like, oh, that's a great, I'm getting such a big win out of this. And actually Ellie's like, I ain't going anywhere near a guy, so there's no risk of that. But for her, it's a great battering tool to say, get me on that patrol. And she just has that little shake of her head behind him. It's like, yeah, you have no idea. And he's all confident going, I got a keen eye for these things. Those typical dad things where you don't know what your teenagers are doing. They have totally separate secret lives. For better or for worse, they do. We have all this to come.
We do.
But yes, we reach a final opening in the forest, and we were revealed an actual dinosaur. So she guessed right. She did actually guess right. It's a giant T-Rex. What does Ellie immediately do? Climbs up it.
As would every child.
Yeah, and disobeys everything Joel's saying. Like, Ellie, don't. It's dangerous. It's risky. It's too high. She's already on his freaking head before he's even at it. He's just going, yeah, she's gone.
That is every kid. I mean, you cannot tell me that you have not seen dinosaurs and things like that in a museum and thought, I'd love to climb that.
Oh, absolutely. Like Jurassic Park, at the end of the movie, they all climb on one and it breaks apart. But it's
everybody's inner impulse.
But you get that bit of levity from Joel as well when he goes, do you like it? And then she runs off and he's like, you like it. She's like, yeah, you like it. He did good again.
Yeah,
and that would normally be the end. Like, that would be enough. Her to see an actual dinosaur. That you could probably go back and she'd have had a great day already. Just to stop there for this particular part, we get into more of the museum that they find in a short while. Dinosaur Museum. Not as much as I was hoping for. I know we only had 50 minutes of the flashback, but that part in the game is a good,
takes a long time.
Hour and a half, slow walkthrough. You can interact with all the... Not that they're going to do that in a show. No. I understand that. The only thing that stands out for me is in one of the behind-the-scenes videos on the HBO Max channel, they had the set. So, when they're in the museum and there's all the different skeletons and they walk around and they put the hat on one of them, the little cowboy hat. They're on the set. There's a video of Neil Druckmann thanking all the cast and crew and I'm guessing when they're wrapping up shooting. And they're all there, and Padre Pascal thanks all the cast as well and says, you're all amazing, you're the best crew I've ever worked with. And I'm looking at the background going, that wasn't in the show. There's like this whole amazing set they built to replicate the museum.
Yeah, and they didn't use it.
Not in it. So it was obviously cut, I'm sure, for a very good reason, but I was like, oh, I would have loved to see more of that. Because that's one of the best parts. The best part of the game, I think, is that slow bit of time with Ellie, where you just go back and forth. You learn Joel loves the Jurassic Park movies, although they never reference them directly. And just walk around the sections and having that father-daughter back and fun. And we've said many times, how cool would this museum be if it was real?
Oh, it would.
Like, it's such an epic-looking museum. And not only does it have a great dinosaur part, it has a fantastic space part. Yeah. And we know from previous episodes when Ellie's referenced, like, the first people in space, Sally Ride, not Sally Ryder. And a couple of other things that she knows, we know that she's fully into this stuff. So it's a nice little segue from dinosaurs into space. And she finds the mechanical solar system, which I learned was also called an orrery. Do you know that?
I did not.
An orrery? I don't know how you say it. Orrery. But that's like the big mechanical solar system which goes around. And shout out to Pluto. Pluto was in it.
Oh, was it?
Because of the date time thing. So very attention to detail. Ellie kind of gives it spin. Mind's blown already. But then the two finally arrive at the Apollo 15 landing module capsule from 1971. And you can see almost like Ellie's face is like, this is amazing. Could the day get any better? A dinosaur to now a space capsule. She's probably already had a cake as well at the start of the day.
And stuff that she has never seen before.
Yeah.
Never. Like,
she's probably read about because she's probably sketched it a couple of times and she's keen on it. But to see that panned out, like, we've all been to museums as kids and stuff you like, and when you go to a specific museum, and like you can relate to it, and like you've seen it on shows and TV. But in that world, Ellie, knowing fine well she's probably never going to witness this. Like, she's never going to space. No, you would have thought. I don't think human civilization can catch up to the
It's probably not a priority.
No, not unless it's to escape the planet.
I mean, maybe
get away from it all. But Joel tells Ellie that she's going to need a helmet. He gives her a rock to go smash a window, and you get another stupid grin out of Ellie. Like, all these little kid moments.
I love her face in these scenes.
Bella Ramsey's just like a proper
She just turns into an absolute child, and it's wonderful because you just don't see it anywhere else in the series.
And a parent giving a child permission to break something is like, it's the ultimate satisfaction. It's like, you're saying I can actually break it. It's like,
I mean, you all go to these museums, and so much of it you're not allowed to touch, and all you want to do is try the helmets on, try the suits on, get inside the big modules or whatever they are. And you're just never allowed. They're always fenced off.
Yeah, they have a terrible photo opportunity from way too far away, and you just want to get in and mess around with it. And you
Of
know
course
why they do it as an adult, but as a kid, it's like, touchy.
I mean, as a kid, as an adult.
Well, yeah, that as well. They didn't have the Mars rover or the Moon rover that was in the game you could climb into as well. Again, this is where the interactive element to the TV show
There's got to be certain things they've got to take out.
Has to
You'll be there for an hour and a half doing one thing.
Would you watch it though?
Probably.
It'd be great.
Probably.
But yeah, Joel tells Ellie she needs a helmet, so she goes and smashes one, picks out like one of the white helmets from another space mission. The two climb inside the capsule. Joel gives Ellie the countdown track on the cassette.
The fact that he managed to find that, I think, it's unbelievable. Forget about being able to buy an iPhone.
Yeah.
Being able to find that in today's world would be quite challenging, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, would you go to like a library and they would keep records of these things on cassette?
How he found it, I don't know, but I think it's
lots
wonderful.
of scavenging. Yeah, he goes above and beyond
really
for
does.
Ellie. He gets the cassette for the Apollo 11 mission, which is the first one to the moon, like the successful one. And then Joel gives it to Ellie. She's got she doesn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Pops a little earphone. Then she's got a Sony Walkman. Again, as always, shows up. And shut your eyes and just listen. And we kind of witness Ellie's imagination go wild as she hears the launch sequence, the countdown, 10, 9, 8, etc., etc. And then they do what I'm really glad they did is what they do in the game, almost one for one, of we actually get to see her imagination. Like in the show, the show's so grounded. I don't think we've ever seen them do CGI in the real world. Like we see everything goes dark, we hear the rockets ignite, the room shakes, the camera shakes, you see the sun rotate over the window. And I don't think we've seen anything like that in the show so far that actually goes beyond the realms of reality. Yeah. And you are in Ellie's head at that moment. Even in the Riley flashback, in the game, you get like the thing where Riley tells Ellie to shut her eyes and it fades out to an arcade game and she sees the fight as Ellie describes it to her. You didn't get that in the Left Behind episode. No. So for them to do it here, I think was so true to the game. But then you could see like every emotion on Bella Ramsey's face. I think was fantastic, and that
was absolutely brilliant.
Blissful joy as a child. Like you can't even imagine what emotion she was going through.
And I think it shows a really nice side of. It feels strange saying it, but a really nice side of the apocalypse, I suppose. Because I mean, how many children now they get so hung up on? This is what I want for my birthday. I want the new iPhone. I want the next gaming console, and it's all these material things. But there's something to be said for giving somebody just that moment, that experience that they've never had before. And it doesn't have to cost the earth. And it's just something so pure and so wonderful. Yeah. And that would have meant more to her than any iPhone would ever mean to a child. Yeah.
It's pure joy. Yeah.
And in a world where I think joy is probably pretty hard to come by, that's just the most special thing I think he could have done. It was wonderful. Yeah. She'll
remember that forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially and again, Joel banking a lot of points here for
definitely
for that terrible thing he did. He's definitely clawing himself back out of that well. An interesting point Neil Druckmann said in the official podcast was the two actors who played Joel and Ellie in the game, when they first signed on to do the game, they were writing the script and stuff, he asked them what they wanted to do for a living. Right. And Troy Baker said he wanted to be a musician if he wasn't an actor.
Right, okay.
And Ashley Johnson said she wanted to be an astronaut. So that's how he
wrote. So Joel did want to be a musician, and Ellie did want to be an astronaut.
Yeah. That's so he wrote that into their characters. So for the second game, when it got to this moment, Troy Baker got to perform the guitar. Ashley Johnson got to live her best astronaut life, as not quite as close to Joel's, but in a way, and you can see it in the performances, and like it's so like raw and emotional. Yeah. We see the light in Ellie's face though, but then we get that two side of the coin where it cuts to Joel, who he's getting just as much excitement out of it as she is, but through a different means. And I think for us as parents, and for Joel as a parent, that's why you do these things with your kids.
Oh, you do.
You're not doing it for yourself necessarily, but seeing their enjoyment. Like we have a 2-year-old, and everything we do that makes her laugh, giggle, smile, you get this like weird nourishment out of it, of like the elixir of youth and life playing out in front of you and going down a slide, going on a swing, tickling them. It just fills you with joy of like, this is the best part about being a parent.
I mean, I was talking to my brother the other day. My brother's just come back from Disney World in Florida.
Did you go to Kennedy Space Center to see the Apollo stuff?
No. But I was saying, me and you are both Disney adults. We've been to Disney Paris many times. And last year we took our little girl for the first time. Yeah. And we didn't do all the rides that we normally do. We didn't do as many rides as we would normally do. but I would argue that we had an infinitely better day.
Yeah.
Because watching that little mind just see everything, see the characters that you're seeing on TV, because she is Mickey mad. Seeing Mickey Mouse in real life in front of her was just...
blew her mind.
Oh, it was priceless.
Yeah.
And I had an arguably much better day than any day I've had in Disney.
Yeah.
Up to that point.
I agree. And then she put a rock through a window. And we're like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, I think that totally embodies
it's
just
an
like...
experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Giving somebody that and seeing that joy, it's just wonderful.
Yeah. And I think, taking them to a museum and seeing something that they've clearly got a passion for and an interest in, but something that no other kid on that planet will probably experience ever again. Such a unique birthday present. So, and then he cuts to when he says, "Oh, did I do good?"
I did good.
It's like, did good. And you can see almost like in that bit, there's like a tear rolls down Pedro Pascal's face, and you're like, oh, he's
and it's
nailing
the
these
things
emotions.
he probably never expected that he would get to do. All these things that he would have loved to have done with Sarah that he thought were out of reach are suddenly there in the real. And it's not Sarah, but it's still his baby girl.
He's had like 25 years of pain at this point, and survival.
You can't imagine what that joy feels like.
Yeah, to get to that, like to just go back home at the end of the day and lay in bed and be like,
that was
an epic day. Yeah, absolutely. We cut to the journey back through the forest, and then Ellie stops for a brief moment. She's transfixed on something off camera, and then it pans around. He asks her if she's okay. She says, yeah, she's fine. They continue on, but the camera pans across and we see some actual fireflies. Yeah. And it's that moment of like, back to reality. Oh yeah, Ellie's got this thing eating away at her mind of like, did he lie to me? Did he keep his promise? And yeah, I think we as an audience, like, you've just had this beautiful, sweet moment, and then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot we live in a post-apocalypse world.
Which is exactly what it did to her.
Yeah, literally.
I've had this amazing moment. Oh, I forgot I lived in this world.
Back down to earth. We then jump another year ahead. We're at Ellie's 17th birthday. The cake is correct this time. It says
checked.
Ellie. Yeah, he's checked with Seth. He's made like a chocolate cake or something this time. A little bit bigger as well. However, as you can see, Joel walking up the stairs to get to Ellie's room. He hears some like giggles and laughs. Opens the door and he discovers Ellie with Kat. They're doing that awkward teenager quickly getting dressed as their parents coming home.
I mean, he should have knocked and waited.
I think he did knock, but then immediately went in.
He shouldn't have just gone in.
It's we all go through things like that, I think, in our life, but there's a time and a place, and he goes in, and not only does he find, I guess, one thing as a parent that irritates him, which is the experimenting, as he calls it in a bit, but then we learn he's not happy. Then he realises that she's had a tattoo as well. She's also probably been smoking weed.
Well, she hadn't, you can see the cigarette.
And you just think like, oh no. And I think the bless her, the Kat, the girlfriend, the tattooist woman, I think she tries to say like it'll look like she tries to like
she tries to
inform,
justify
don't worry, the tattoo will look much better once I've filled in the cut. He's like, okay, I'm leaving.
Yeah, it's not the quality that was the problem here.
It's the whole scenario as a whole. And for those who don't remember, Kat was she was like the captain of their patrol on episode 1 when they went out with Dina. And she's almost like the jilted lover in the Ellie-Dina triangle now with them. But this is Ellie's essentially first proper relationship. Outside of kissing Riley and stuff back in the other episode. This is the one that's like probably been a adult
Jackson,
relationship.
it's probably quite a taboo thing still. You mean, you touched on the conservativeness of like maybe the Deep South earlier on. But within Jackson, it seems like it's also quite a taboo because I think Dina mentions earlier on in the scene, like at the start when they introduce Kat as being, well, she's the only other one.
Only other one, yeah.
And it almost, I don't know, maybe he's worried about Ellie becoming alienated like that.
Well, everything's gone back in time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
The tools they use, the technology they have, you'd imagine the behaviours. Like, we don't know if Jackson, I mean, we know from the Wire Jackson has a church of some kind.
Yeah.
In a post-apocalypse, a lot of people turn to religion, seemingly, in times of hardship. So, if, like, Christianity or something is the default one that they've all went to, that's going to be taboo.
Potentially.
And so drugs, sex, rock and roll, like all that kind of stuff is like, we're not allowed to do that. And again, Joel, from his age, he's like a dad from the 80s, the way he was grew up, and he says that, he attributes all his behaviours.
In what seems to be quite a conservative household.
Yeah, very old school. And he says, he does the worst thing though, I think.
Oh, he does.
He says, he attributes all his behaviours to just another teenage phase. Drugs, tattoos, sex, experimenting with girls. And Ellie's like quick to call him out, and she's like, "It wasn't sex, and it wasn't a fucking experiment."
Because I don't think he meant it. I think it was more reactionary than it was a reflection of him.
Yeah.
But it's so demeaning to say experimenting.
Yeah.
Like she is a kid still, but she's 17. She's certainly discovering who she is.
Yeah.
She's clearly known this for quite a while. She's not being made it a secret.
He's just a bit oblivious to it all, isn't
He's
he?
just chosen not to see it, and I think saying it's experimenting, she probably felt very, very dismissed there.
Yeah.
And it would be quite hurtful.
Yeah, and I think from a 2025 perspective from us, I think every time he opened his mouth, we were like, "Oh, Joel,
Yeah,
don't
stop
do
talking,
it." Yeah.
just be quiet.
He says near the end, he's like, "We'll discuss this later when you're back to yourself,
Yeah.
or you're not yourself." And it's
and again, no, not the way to do it.
Like you've already annoyed the poor girl.
Yeah.
And then you've got to take that step back up from a father's point of view. He's trying to protect her. He doesn't want his daughter doing drugs. He doesn't want his daughter...
the drugs I can get behind.
Yeah, completely.
As a parent, the drugs I can get behind.
Tattoos are permanent. Although in a post-apocalypse, I don't know how much it matters, but...
I mean, again, I think it's probably reactionary, but when you actually think about it, this girl's already burned.
Yeah.
That, and she's probably... Yeah, she's not happy with the bite, and that's going to raise a lot of questions. But so will the burn.
Yeah.
Because people are going to say, oh, well, how did you get that? And... It's such a big burn that I think it's quite hard to say that's really just an accident.
Yeah.
Covering it up, let's give her something a bit more normal.
I'm quite impressed they've got tattoos in the post-apocalypse as well. Like, I guess the ink would expire, or
I don't know.
machines
People
would be hard
managed
to
do
find.
tattoos. Like, tattoos have been around for years.
Not to the point. She had a machine set up and everything, though.
Yeah, but they can build then, I think.
I mean, they can do everything if you put your mind to it. But yeah, so Joel's pissed Ellie off on her birthday. Not the way he wanted. He just chucks the cake down the table.
It just wasn't the birthday they wanted, was it?
Storms out. It kind of ruins it all. And it was going so well for Ellie. She was getting some. She was going to get a cake in a bit, and it all went. Yeah. She's getting a tattoo for a present. I'd imagine Kat didn't charge her for it or anything. So, and we don't see any more of that relationship. But we know in the game they do date for a little while. There's stuff in a journal that explains it. But it's nice to see that character gets a little bit more screen time.
I mean, she's a big part of Ellie's journey. So
those formative, I think, experiments, for lack of a better way to explain it.
It's just first relationships, like...
Yeah.
Regardless of gender, the first relationships do sort of, like, form you.
Mm-hmm. And then she's going to move on to Dina off the back of this as well. So it leads somewhere. But yeah, then we find Joel, I think's in bed, probably contemplating like what a dick he's been the whole time through.
Didn't handle it well.
And then you hear like noises in the middle of the night, which I'm guessing noises in the middle of the night in a post-apocalypse is quite scary.
Yeah,
like,
probably.
Anything out there out on ordinary is like, oh no. But yeah, he wakes up and he finds out she's just moving out in the middle of the night. She's trying to wedge a mattress out the door, and it's like, sit. No, what you doing?
I mean, I get the impulse to move out, but in the middle of the night, come on.
Yeah, he confronts her again. Doesn't make it any better. He says, "You may not like the rules, but this is my house."
I mean, this would have been the prime opportunity. Let's chat about this. Let's talk about it. Tell me how you're feeling. Let me have a look at the tattoo. I don't want to agree with the drugs.
But he doesn't do that.
He doesn't. He just goes straight back.
My house, my rules. Like, oh.
And is that his dad coming out?
Yeah, it's probably his conversation he's had with Sarah to some degree. Like,
but that authoritarian relationship, it's my house, and I imagine that's probably how his dad was.
In his relationship with Ellie, the whole way through, he has been the one in charge for the most part. Like, he's helped them survive through. But
at the same time, I think there probably is that echo of Ellie isn't his daughter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he keeps forgetting.
He's taken on that role, but she isn't his daughter.
Yeah.
The relationship is a bit of a complicated one.
And this is where when Ellie pushes back, he can't really say anything. She says like, "No, it's not your house."
I mean, she's right.
Jackson gave it to us. You don't own anything. And he's like, oh yeah, he has that like he's like taking it back moment.
That, is there?
But Joel finally he does concede to Ali. He says like, yeah, give me a few days. I'll fix the garage up. There's no water or electric or something. So just like,
have done it. You should have just worked on the relationship.
Straight away, he's like, yeah, I'll let her do it.
It's almost like if I give her what she wants, she'll forgive me.
Yeah, he's always.
But he needs to restore the relationship. He can't just go into, oh yeah, just move out.
Yeah, it's not a solution.
It's not.
He asks her about the moths, what it means, and he says like, "Oh, like change and growing up." He's like, "Is that typical?"
And he misreads that as well.
Is that dad trying to kind of just like fill in the gaps without really understanding it?
Again, speak to her.
Yeah, but again, I feel like as a teenage daughter, she might not want to tell him.
She might not.
It's her own personal stuff.
But I think show the willingness, show the interest, and then when she's ready, she might open up.
Yeah. We cut to Joel interrupting Gail, the psychotherapist, having breakfast, reading her book, to ask about moths.
I love how annoyed she looks at everything.
Every time she has to work, she's like, oh, this guy again. She's reading, there was a nice point which was she reading Earth Abides by George R. Stewart, which it's about a character called Ish.
Oh, from
the notes from the first game, in the first season. Survived an outbreak that destroys the whole world population. I think he tries to help his son, but his son ends up dying, and he realises that the world will never be the same again. Right. But the first game, you find the notes from Ish in the sewers.
I really enjoyed the Ish bits. Yeah,
and we didn't see anything from that season one, so I'm hoping they're keeping the character for maybe a little side pocket somewhere.
It was such a sad little detail, but it was really good.
He rescued the family with the kids.
Yeah.
And then the kids wouldn't get bit, so they locked the door and he ended up
Oh,
killing
it was
the kids.
so
And
sad.
it was like,
so
oh,
sad.
but he did the right thing because they were going to die anyway, and rather than be ripped apart.
Oh, but it's just it's that position, isn't it?
Poor-ish. He tried.
He did.
But apparently a really good book as well. Gail corrects him about moths not representing growth and change. That's actually butterflies, and moths actually represent death. And you can see Joel going, "Oh no, I've got this wrong in this moment." And I guess like it's not really touching the game either. But like, why does Ellie focus so much on moths? Because they're ugly creatures. To me, I hate moths.
We know.
I'm not too keen on butterflies either. Just their movement and stuff. We won't get into that here. Why does Ellie so transfixing it?
Because maybe she feels like she should have died. I mean, she says all the way through, doesn't she? She had a purpose, and she feels like Joe took it from her. Is that she feels like should have been her purpose? She should have died. I mean, she should have died when she was first bitten with Riley.
Yeah, that's that survivor.
So there is that fixation of death. Everybody that she knows has died, with the exception of Joel.
Yeah, there's a lot of death around. I mean, even
Massively.
just not long before in the episodes, like we see a horde of people. Like
the only person in her life that she's not lost is Joel.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess moths, creepy as they are. If you want to get one on your arm, more power to you, Ellie.
I mean, she does nice pictures of them.
She does. We now jump to 2 years later, so we actually skip a birthday. We're now at Ellie's 19th birthday. She's fully living in the garage now, which we're familiar with from the beginning of season 2. And we're also only a few months away from New Year's Eve, so we're getting close to like the timelines kind of matching up now. I'm guessing they probably wrote some stuff in for her 18th birthday, because it seems odd to go 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 2.
Maybe.
But I think from a pacing standpoint, like we can't do them all. We need to jump ahead.
I mean, maybe that birthday was just a bit frosty.
Maybe, and this is what we see with these yearly time jumps, isn't it? Is that Ellie and Joel's relationship is starting to become a bit strained. She's getting older. She's changing. He's not really understanding how to react, because I'm guessing Sarah never got to that point. He never got to go through these kind of teenage emotions with Sarah.
Yeah. I mean, he grew up with a brother, so he's not seen it in a sister.
Absolutely. But yeah, we're in the garage. Ellie's sitting on a bed. She's practicing some questions she's lined up for Joel regarding the events with the Fireflies in Salt Lake City, and she reads them out and she's like, right, 1, it would perfectly valid questions as well.
Yeah.
Poking holes in the story. If the Fireflies spotted us a mile from the hospital, how did a group of raiders surprise them? Because they were a militarized group. If the raiders could kill all them soldiers and Marlene, how did you get out while carrying me?
Begs the question.
Again, yeah. And if there are dozens of amused people, like Joel said, why has no one mentioned them or brought them up before? And she's got them scribbled down on a piece of paper, and she's kind of reciting them in her head of like that, almost like confidence talk in the mirror of like, you've got this, you can do this.
I'm going to give it a go because I need to get it out. And
she's been building it for 5 years now as well, nearly. But yeah, before she can continue her kind of routine, there's a knock at the door. Joel's surprised her there, and he's going to take her on her first patrol, which he promised to on her birthday 2 years back if she didn't get pregnant.
And she didn't.
So I guess he's kept that in the memory banks of like, this is what she wants to do at some point.
I think he also knows he's never going to stop her. So if she's gonna do it, let's teach her to do it properly. Yeah,
and you've got to imagine he's running out of great ideas. Like you've hit the bar with the space capsule and the dinosaur and the guitar, and performing a song for her. Like all that stuff is, again, it's that thing of like, as kids get older, as a parent, how do you adapt and I guess grow with them a little bit? And there's a lot of the time they're not going to want to know you. That's a sad reality, isn't it? You're not their favourite person anymore. Like I want to hear the time like our daughter's like, oh, you're not cool, Dad. I'd rather hang out with my mates on a weekend than you. And it's like,
isn't it?
It is going to sting, and it's the joys of being a parent, I guess. But yeah, Joel's kind of clinging on to this, like, right, she wants to do this. I can help her with this. I can teach her the best way. Yeah. Let's go do it. It's her birthday. I'll take her out on a first patrol. And you can kind of see she does have that little bit of like, okay, she's into it. She's like excited for it. She's worked up. Even though they have that kind of fractured relationship. Yeah. We cut to the two of them on horseback. They're patrolling through the forest. Before we hear a radio message from the Jackson HQ alerting the duo to Eugene and Adam need backing up. Yeah. We hear this, which for us was fine, like, oh, here's Eugene.
Oh, well, we thought it was going to get an entire episode, didn't we?
Yeah, they'd kind of positioned this before the season even began, of Eugene is going to have his own standalone episode.
Yeah, we thought this was going to be the Bill and Frank.
Yeah, and we'd seen Gail in earlier episodes, and Gail referenced Eugene, and we knew he died. We knew Joel had killed him. And Bill and Frank's episode was so good in season 1. Yeah, I think it was the 3rd or 4th episode.
It's number 3.
We expect like a full hour of like Eugene and Gail, and something happens with Joel in the end, which is going to lead to why Gail hates him so much. And we do get that answered. But I was very surprised we got so little of Eugene in this whole thing. Again, played by, who did I say it was called? It's
Joe
Pantoliano. But everyone calls him on these podcasts Joey Pants. It's what everyone calls him. And I much prefer Joey Pants. It works. So yeah, we've got Joey Pants now. They kind of find him, they meet up with him in the forest. After we see presumably Adam getting dragged by on his horse.
Oh, is that? Yeah, that would be.
Because there's just the two of them. They never went and checked if he was okay or if he was dead.
I mean, if you're getting dragged by your horse like that, you're not very well.
Like, I mean, yeah, you're probably going to hit your head off a couple of rocks and trees, but they kind of just see the body go past, and that's the first like shock. We don't hear any clickers or anything. They do listen for it, but yeah, they come through the forest clearing. They see Eugene up against a tree. He admits straight away he's been bit, doesn't he? Like they ask him if he's been bit. That they train the rifles on him, and he says like he opens his jacket and goes like, "Yep, took a chunk out my side," which we all know what that means now. But then again, it's Ellie's first patrol run. She's like, "Great,
here we are." Want to go on the safest route.
Yeah, on the safest route, yeah, Sod's Law. Both have the weapons on them. I did like the little bit where Eugene pulled his gun out to kind of say like, "Don't kill me straight away," and Joe's like, "Your weapon's empty." He's like, "Oh shit, yeah." Like, put it away. Like I can't even win in this bit. His chamber's empty. But yeah, we kind of get this standoff moment where Joel's doing right, I guess, by Jackson and their rules of the patrol. He lays out and says, "Look."
Joel is used to thinking of the bigger picture, I think.
Yeah, he's like, it's the rules of the town. Like you've been,
and he's been doing patrol for a long time as well.
Makes you wonder how many people he's potentially killed.
I mean,
we know how many people.
The reality is that life, though, isn't it?
It is, like, they're the rules, and Eugene, I think, in this moment, he practically begs to be taken back, doesn't he? He's like, no, don't, like, look, I'm fine. I just want to see Gail one last time. Joel kind of just dismisses that straight away. It's like, we have the rules, you know what I need to do. Ellie does that cognitive test that Marlene got her to do back in the Boston QZ of, like, just hold out your hand, count back down from 10. They do that, and she's like, look, he's okay, he's got time. Like, again, from what we know, if you get bit, it can take anywhere from a few hours to maybe a day and a bit. I think 2 days has been the maximum that we've had in the game and the show. We know from Tess said, I think, a few hours after being bit in episode 2.
That spread really quickly.
I guess it depends if you get like a proper artery or a limb. It's like we don't actually know anything about this. Of like if you get bit.
I feel like we saw a poster in like the first season that said that different bite sites
I think we did. Yeah, that's a good point.
Develop.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? If you get an infection somewhere,
I mean, if it's in your head, I suppose the further away from your head it is, maybe.
Yeah, because that's what the cordyceps is trying to get to. And it's that thing we've never seen anyone attempt yet of like, if you get bit, if you like get bit on your finger and you lop your arm off straight away, cauterize the wound, like, if you stop the spread, like how does...
I mean, effectively, that's what Ellie's mum did.
She cut the cord, So... I don't know if it's not really explored in the game. I think it's that thing. If you get bit, you're screwed. Unless you're Ellie, of course. I'd be interested in seeing, like, if they did a third game or another series, like, what if they do come across another immune person?
I mean, it stands to reason it could have happened.
Like, I mean, we've not talked about it yet, but future, if Ellie decided to have a child, would her child be immune by those rules?
Potentially.
Like, she could just breed the future of humanity herself.
I mean,
She would be the beginning of that new family tree of humanity that would outlast and outlive everyone.
Yeah.
And she would be the last of them. But yeah, we see this. Eugene, he's in that panic moment. Ellie says, like, we've got time. Joel kind of agrees to it, but he says, Ellie, you go get the horses. I'll watch you. I think at that moment, we both were like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
No, Joel, you go get the horses.
Yeah.
I'll stay with Eugene. And as she's about to walk away to like, oh yeah, I trust Joel, I'll go get the horses. She kind of pauses just after passing him and goes, hang on a minute. Turns back to Joel. He looks at her and is like, what? And he uses the words, doesn't he? Go get the horse, bring them down. And he says, I promise.
Yeah.
He's said something like that before. He swore to her before. He's made a promise. Yeah. And we know as an audience, because we know what Joel's like, and we know what he's done. And she trusts him again. She heads off to get the horses, and Joel's like, right, Eugene, head that way at gunpoint. And he says, like, Eugene at this point is thinking, like, I get to see Gail.
Yeah.
All is good. We're walking through the forest. Then they come to this opening. You've got this beautiful picturesque lake with the birds and the sunset. It's of mice and men all over again.
George and Manny.
And you almost see Eugene realise what's happening in the moment. He's looking out. He goes, oh, this is a beautiful view. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. And that's when Eugene starts, I guess, like, panic. And he goes into default, like, survival mode. He's like, you can't do this to me, Joel. There's a really good moment in Joey Pan's performance, I think, where as he's talking to Joel, he says, "If you've got any last words, I can pass them along for you." And he sounds like a child wanting his. Like they're saying in the official podcast, he performs in a way it's like he's like a child wanting their mother. All of a sudden, he's like he doesn't want anything. He just wants to see her. Yeah. Eugene says like last words for her. No. I don't. I need her last words for me. I'm the one dying. I'm terrified. Yeah. I don't need a view. Comfort. I don't need this view from you. I need my wife. I want to see her face. Please, let that be the last thing I see. Absolutely. And again, when you've got, I guess, a countdown on you immediately. I
mean, you've gone from having your breakfast that morning, everything's normal. Mm-hmm. You've gone out on patrol, which you've done a million times. Mm-hmm. But this time you suddenly find out you're not coming back. And that must be the scariest feeling in the world. And
you haven't had a chance to say bye.
No. He may not even have seen her that morning. It may have just been a case of like a quick, I'll catch you later.
Yeah. Head out.
Yeah. And I think it just smacks of that. You never know when the last time is.
And then Joel retorts to him and says, like, yeah, if you love someone, you can always see their face. Which I guess he's echoing Sarah.
Of course he is.
At that moment.
It's really quite heartbreaking, actually.
And Eugene kind of like looks off in the distance. Joel doesn't let him turn around the whole time. And you can almost see a shift in his face. It's like, I thought he was getting infected, like the way his eye motion changed.
I wondered if that had happened.
It's almost like his focus went from looking off in the distance to looking at something near to his face. And I was like, because he tilts his head a little bit as well. Mm-hmm. And I said to you, I was like, he's turning and he's going to go around and try and get Joel. And he didn't.
It almost would have been easier if he had, because then Joel could have said,
he went for me. But yeah, Eugene says, like, I see her face. And then we cut to a wide shot. You hear a muffled gunshot. Birds flee out the trees. And you know what's happened. He's killed him. Then, of course, though, the camera kind of pans around over the shoulder shot of Joel, and you see Ellie on horseback, utter shock on her face, seeing what he's just done. He's just shot Eugene in cold blood, very cold blood, because he actually says the cordyceps made him cold, which you didn't expect. You get like a little insight into how the cordyceps affects humans. But yeah, then I guess the next thing we see is Eugene's body getting dragged back to Jackson. Very similar to Joel's body, actually, where they're wrapped up with the bullet wound in the head of, like, just getting dragged back on.
And Ellie's had to join in with that. She's had to help wrap him.
Yeah, like, against her will. Like, I think at this moment, Ellie, like, shuts down. I can't, like, you don't see it, but I'd
imagine she did it in absolute stony silence.
She's that kid who's like, right, I'm not talking to you now.
No.
I've got no words for you. I'm just going to have a face on me. And Joel's probably like, right, let's take him back. And she's just you can almost sense the anger probably building up in her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ready to blow. Take the body back. They're getting there. You see Tommy, Gail, and Joel kind of explains to Gail what happened. He offers her words of comfort, realistically. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem like it's the first time Joel's done it before.
Sorry, Richie's looking different today.
Richie's looking very different today.
If I look like him.
Yeah, very good. He's shaved. This is what he looks like without the beard. It's Richie 2.0. But yeah, so Gail is there. Joel tries to comfort her a little bit. He offers quite good words of comfort, in all honesty.
He does. He gives a really nice story.
Yeah, he says he wanted to know that he loved you, but he didn't want to put you in danger. He was brave to the very end, and he even ended it himself. Yeah. Which is like, I guess if you've lost your loved one, hearing a couple of nice things, they were like, look, they went on their terms. Like, they didn't turn, they didn't go brain crazy and try and kill people.
It's as comforting as it's going to get.
Yeah, in that moment it is. It's words of softness. Gail even embraces Joel, like, even though, like, she knows he's dead and he was there present. He's brought the body back and he's literally on the floor next to them. She, like, hugs Joel, and I think we all knew what was coming here. It's like Ellie's years of pent up frustration and emotion, and I guess the lies that Joel set out is Ellie just comes out with in the background while Gail's embracing Joel, and there's such raw emotion on scene. That's not what happened. Mm-hmm. And you can almost feel that moment of, like, the audience, the air is taken out of the room of, like, oh no. Oh no. Joel and Gail kind of separate as they both, like, focus in on Ellie. She is pissed. She is emotional.
She just goes for it,
is angry. Like, every
really
emotion Bella Ramsey has on her face there. Is she recounts what happens, and she says, he begged to see you. Which is like, oh, Gail's heart at this moment in time.
It's like stinger after stinger.
It is. It's like, so not only is that not what happened, so now Gail's like, right, Joel lied to me.
Yeah.
He begged to see you. Your husband begged to see you. He had time, confirmation that he wasn't going to turn. Joel promised to bring him to you. He promised both of them, and then he shot him in the head.
Yeah.
It's like a quadruple blow of, like, sorry, Gail, your husband's dead.
It was quite uncomfortable to watch, wasn't it?
From all sides. You can see, like, Gail almost, like, push away from Joel of, like, I don't want to see you anymore. Like, get away. She even pushes him away from Joey Pants's body. She's like,
just
get away from my husband, get away from me. Yeah. And she kind of embraces Tommy in the end. Ellie storms off, and we kind of, I guess, see Joel in shock of that realization of, like, Ellie and him are not on great terms right now.
I think the thing with this scene, I think that very much got me is it's absolutely a teenager lashing out, but she's trying to hurt Joel, but the only person really who gets hurt in this scenario is Gail.
Poor Gail.
Like, it's such misplaced anger.
Yeah, it's like a teenager.
Ellie could 100% have saved this rant for when Gail is gone and given Gail that bit of comfort and allowed her to just continue. Regardless of how she feels about Joel, she could give her peace. Yeah. And Ellie's 100% taking it away. But it's that teenage, I'm in pain, so I'm going to make everybody else feel pain too. Yeah. And I don't care who gets hit by it. It's that impulsivity that all teenagers have done. Yeah. It just comes out. Yeah. And Gail, unfortunately, pays an absolute price for that. But I think it's a really good representation of that teenage angst. Yeah. Which I sometimes question with Ellie as well. Sorry if I'm going a bit out of
No.
Because Ellie's such an aggressive character in a lot of ways. How much of that is influenced by the cordyceps that maybe got into a system that have given that immunity? Yeah. Maybe they've aggravated that aggressive part of the brain.
Well, we don't really know. Again, they never really explore the science in the game or the show.
But it's interesting. I think it would be interesting to explore how the cordyceps have affected her psychology.
Yeah, because it's in her system.
It absolutely
she
is.
might be immune, but
she must be. It must have her in the system. Sorry, for her to be immune.
Yeah, and she keeps getting bit every other damn week. So
she's
getting her booster jabs every other week. But yeah, so what a shot to end on. Yeah. You've got kind of Joel looking off, Ellie storms off in the distance. You've got the ruined Gail hugging Tommy. Like, Tommy looks at Joel like, damn it, brother, like every time I see you,
I know,
stuff happens. Trouble. You bring Ellie in, you bring this, like everything happens. Yeah. It's terrible. We then cut to the New Year's Eve barn dance once again, which we see play out this time from Joel's perspective. So we kind of see him watching Ellie and Dina. Yeah, Uncle Grumpy. Drunk Dina in the barn, getting ready to make her moves. Yeah. Jesse's there. They're sharing a drink as like a family. There's like Maria, Tommy, the little kid. This, I think, don't really get into it too much, but this is the last time Tommy sees Joel as well, and vice versa.
Is it?
Because it's the barn dance. So what happens here is...
because Tommy wasn't on patrol with him, was he? It was Dina and this stuff.
So they make the joke of, like, the best dad joke of, like, see you next year, which I do every New Year's.
Yes, you do.
Of, like, I'll see you in 2026, which is only, like, a few minutes away, but see you next year.
Yeah, but the entirety of December with you is...
See you next year.
It's dad joke after dad joke.
Yeah. But then, so, like, they share the little shot of whiskey. They say Happy New Year. Maria says she has a drink with Joel and says, like, she's grateful for his contributions and he's part of the family, Uncle Grumpy. But then, like you said, they all go off the separate ways. Joel does what he does to Seth, pushes him over. He has his argument with Ellie on the balcony, the porch. And then he gets up and goes on shift with Dina nice and early, lets Ellie sleep in. Yeah. And then he goes off and meets Abby. So Tommy's next going to see Joel when he's laid out in the infirmary and he has to clean up his body. So so Tommy, again, we haven't really seen it in this series, this season, which is what's irked me a little bit, is I wanted so much more of Tommy played out. They're probably going to save it for season 3 with those flashbacks, but like the last thing he knows of Joel was that New Year's Eve. Yeah. And then those traumatic things that happen. So I think there's a whole story there to explore in another season. See you next year or 2 years from now, depending on when HBO get around to it. We then cut away to Joel playing Ellie's guitar on the porch, which is the same scene we've seen from episode 1, where we think Ellie looks at Joel pauses for a moment, and then she walks off. Yeah. And you're like, that's the last they ever spoke. But we know from the game, it's not. And then we get this clever just use of camera thing where the porch clearly has like 2 entrances. It's got the main one, and then it's got a little side step. Ellie goes past, but then she obviously comes back over and she goes over and she approaches him. And we get Ellie basically ask Joel what he's drinking. He's got his coffee, of course. Traded it with some people the previous week. He does say, embarrassed of what I traded to get
I would love to know what he traded.
What do you think it was?
I would love to know.
What do you think? He's Joel dealing in?
I don't know.
Narcotics or?
I'm not going to try to think what would be embarrassing.
Underwear? Is he selling Joel's musky underwear?
Maybe.
Sex toys? Anything like that? It's post-apocalypse, but people still need to have fun, right? You don't know. So yeah, maybe just something he's not keen on. But he got his coffee beans, which is very important to Joel.
World without coffee.
I'd be fine.
A world without coffee.
A world without coffee. Doesn't bear it thinking about. But yeah, she tells Joel that she had Seth under control back in the barn. She doesn't need him protected. Just reiterates that, really. Joel kind of, again, I guess sees his moment. Again, always trying to patch things up. He says, what's this relationship like with Dina? She'd be really lucky to have you. Whatever her intentions are. And then, yeah, Ellie kind of just snaps back at him and says, like, you're such an arsehole. He doesn't even let him finish his sentence. She's like, you're such an arsehole. So, like, she's not even listening to what he's saying. She's clearly gone up those steps with the intention of talking to him about something in particular. And we all know what it is. She confronts Joel and basically says, look, you have one last chance to tell the truth or I'm gone forever. Yeah. And again, this is like the ultimate ultimatum for Joel. It's like, he's got that, do I keep lying? Yeah. And there's a chance she might lie, but she's like at that breaking point now of, after the Gale thing especially, she's like, look, I'm out. You will never, in the game, she literally says, like, you will never see me again if you lie to me. And as a parent, and Joel in that situation is like, where do I go with this? Because you want to protect her still, and you don't want her to find out about your ultimate dark secret. But if you play this wrong, she's gone. And
he's got no choice. He has to be honest because she knows he's lying.
Yeah, she does. She's known for years.
Like, she knows.
So yeah, she confronts him and she starts asking him. She asks her questions that she wrote out. She's clearly remembered them. And I think this is where we get into like Emmy Award season kind of levels of performance.
It's no secret that I'm a Pedro fan. Mm-hmm. However, Pedro in the scene is just
they both are.
I mean, yeah, Bella is spectacular as well. But I think just the sheer emotion on that man's face is just unbelievable.
And it plays out almost like question for question. Yeah. He gets it harder.
He can't even answer, really, can he?
He doesn't need to.
He's
I think
so choked up.
His face is on. That's why the performance is so much better because they don't even use their words.
No.
Neil Druckmann, the game director of this one, said on set, he said when they were shooting the scene, he very much like let them do their own stuff in the takes. Mm-hmm. He said he was crying while they were doing it because he's obviously wrote this before and seen it played out. And he said to them the only words of advice he gave them before they shot the scene was, this scene means more to the people who played the game than probably any other scene. Yeah. Because it's the final one in the game we see right at the very end of 30-40 hours of gameplay. This is how the flashbacks pan out. And he tells them that, and then he said then when he was shooting it, he cried. He said he turned around and a lot of his staff were crying as well.
You can imagine, it must be so emotionally charged.
So emotionally charged. And we see Ellie kind of goes through the questions. So she says like, were there other moon people? Joel just kind of like shakes his head. Were there raiders? He shakes his head again. And with every head shake, you can almost like see him getting more like
you can feel
emotional.
It's so well done. It's beautiful.
Could they have made a cure? He's almost like choking on the lack of answers. Yes. Like his eyes are welling up. You can see it in his throat. It's like as he's bearing the truth that he's probably held on to for so long, like from Ellie. Of all the people in the world, he didn't want to lie to.
And in some ways, it probably feels good getting it off his chest, but it's such a conflicted emotion.
Absolutely. Could they have made a cure? He nods again. Mm-hmm. Ellie doesn't even have to finish that. She says, "Did you?" Which I'm guessing is in reference kill the people. Like he knows, they know, she knows. Yeah. It's almost like you know that I know that you know situation. He nods again. She follows up with Anne Marlene. He continues to well up as he nods again. It's like you can see all his lies being kind of bared forth for Ellie. And I think he's hit with about 6 things where he's like, I did that as well. Yeah, I'm a terrible person. Bad. I'm a terrible person. And then Joel kind of like comes out and says like in a very broken voice as well. You can hear the cracks in his voice as he's saying this like making a cure would have killed you. And then she snaps back and I'm like, then I was supposed to die. And it's that
he's lost one kid already.
Yeah, she's had this in her tank for so long of like she knew there was a risk she was going to die. Marlene, I'm probably presuming kind of prepared her for it or something. There was always a chance. She says, that was my purpose. My life would have fucking mattered, but you took that from me. You took it from everyone. And I think at this moment, Ellie's definitely thinking about
the bigger picture.
Riley could have been saved. I mean, Marlene wouldn't have had to die. All the people she's seen probably be bit and turn could have survived. Tess could have, like, all them people.
Sam and Henry,
yeah. And probably everyone in between.
Yeah.
And I guess just society. But I think having that weight on your shoulders is Ellie, but she clearly accepted it. It's like that was her fate. And like I said, Joel, without even asking her, took that from her, and then he's lied to her about it for 5 years now, and says yes, and he'll pay the price for that, and you're going to turn away from me, but if somehow I had a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again. And Ellie says, because you're selfish.
Yeah.
I called the line before he said it. This isn't in the game. Because I love you.
Yeah.
In a way you can't understand. Maybe you never will. But if that day should come, if you should ever have one of your own, well, then I hope you do a little better than me.
Just like his dad.
Just like his dad. And it links all the way back into the start of the episode, doesn't it? With his dad saying, like, do that better than me thing. But I think more than anything, that finale of season 1 and everything we've always spoke about is a lot of people online say, like, Joel was the bad guy in this situation.
But if you're a parent...
Yeah, and that's what we've said. And we had our daughter before the end of season 1.
We watched the final episode of season 1 just after coming home from the hospital. She was 2 days old.
Yeah.
We'd got in, dumped the bags, put some comfy clothes on, put the baby in the cot and watched it with a pizza, and it's fair to say we got a bit emotional.
Oh yeah, we were both crying our hearts out. It was the episode where Ellie's mum gives birth to her and she has to hand the baby over and the baby's crying and we're sat there with our baby there.
We had to pause it and we were like, oh, that hit different.
And I knew this before because when we've discussed it while playing the games, we've always said if we were in Joel's position and if it was your daughter, whether it's your
I couldn't have let her
real
go.
daughter or not, you'd be like, no, I'm not letting you take, I'm not letting you
And
kill
I
her.
don't know if that makes me a bad person or not, but I couldn't let her go.
Yeah, and I'd like to think I'd do the better, bigger thing for humanity, but
not at the expense of my daughter.
No. But it's that weird thing, isn't it? Like, when it comes to, like, club over country over whatever, you take that from, like, your family, to your relatives, to your friends, the people you know, the people who live in your town, the people who live in your county, the people who live in your country, to a point where it's, like, humanity as a whole, but it's just such a big ask. And ultimately, if you lose her, you'd surely lose yourself, right? Yeah. But then Ellie does retort and say, like, I don't think I can forgive you for this, because he's done, like, from her point of view, he's done the ultimate sin, which is he's lied to her on several occasions now. Yeah. Lied straight up to her face. He's broke his promises. But then she pauses and says, but I would like to try. And this breaks Joel.
I mean, yeah.
When she says that line, it's like...
It's a glimmer of hope.
I can't forgive
I haven't
you,
lost you,
but I like to try. And it just breaks him. And the breath comes out of them. Tears come out of them. Ellie's emotionally charged this moment, but she's willing to forgive him. And I think the thing that makes this scene the worst is because we know after this...
She never gets to.
She never gets to try and forgive him.
Yeah.
They both go their separate ways that night.
And that's it.
He's left on the porch, he goes out the next morning. And you can see why immediately, trying to mend those bridges, he lets her sleep in the morning. He's like, she hates me,
Let's not anger her more by waking her up.
There's a chance. And he heads out, she heads out with Jesse.
I mean, doesn't she even comment on the way to the horses to go out on her own patrol, which is like...
She wants to go out with him.
Yeah.
And Jesse says he's already gone out, so you can't. And it's like,
So she's actively wanting to mend those relationships, and she just never gets.
Could have been so different. And then again, this is the last sentence of the whole game that you see after 60 hours of 2 games worth, and all the action and stories pan out. But to have it, I guess, in the episode, they were talking in the official podcast of why they wanted it in at this point, and they said because if they had to wait like 2 more years, the emotional resonance wouldn't have been there. And you can totally get it.
Yeah.
Like, it hit so well last night. Like, if they don't get an Emmy for this porch performance...
It was,
the two of them, like, whether it's best performance and best support act or something, the back and forth is, unbelievable acting with barely any words said. That's the biggest thing. It's
but that's,
pure
I think,
emotion.
a mark of quality, isn't it? It is them.
Absolutely. And then, before the episode ends, we are brought full circle back around to realising we're not in a joyful world of flashbacks. We're in the Last of Us world, and Ellie's in the thunderstorm, returning to the September the 2nd theatre, which I've dubbed it because it's my birthday. I keep saying Richie every week.
Every single time.
It says on the front of the theatre, September 2nd. So it's now the September 2nd theatre.
You're going to let one go?
No. Presumably after Ellie has tortured Nora with a pipe in the underground, dying of spores, infection. She's presumably got the information of Abby's location out of her eventually. But then to flip that with all the things Ellie said about Joel and the forgiveness and stuff, right back to where we are in today's current day of she's just tortured a human being who didn't kill Joel, remember? Like, Nora's just one of the side characters of that. And now she's back in the rain. She's about to go in and see Dina, her girlfriend, who's with child. Jesse's with her as well. And we've got one more episode to see how that pans out. And then we end in the rain, cut to black. And that's the end of this week's episode.
So
Shout out to Derek in the chat who's dropped a $4.99 super chat because it won't let him upgrade his membership, so he's dropped a super chat and said thank you,
so
Derek.
kind.
Appreciate it. And it was a great episode. Roll on the finale next week as well. There's a few things I always want to touch on before we get to the end, which is just kind of after all that emotion, what do you see out of the finale next week?
Truthfully,
I'm lost.
I genuinely don't know.
I have no idea.
And I think it's one of those where I want to be able to predict it because I have played the game and I enjoyed the game, but I just don't know.
Yeah, we've got no more flashbacks with Joel now, but also one of the things, besides myself lamenting like the lack of Tommy, we've seen barely anything of Abby and her crew. Like Nora's dead now, but in terms of Owen, Mel, Manny,
none of them.
Abby, nothing with them. Which, considering they were in the opening episode, I was very, we theorised before the season started of actually what we expect to see. And we thought they would actually focus a lot more on Abby this season.
They did.
Build up to you really getting to maybe like her and those characters. And then take Pedro Pascal away from us on the finale, so next week. And let season 3 kind of mop up. But at that point where you actually... Abby's reasoning is perfectly validated. She wants to kill Joel because he did some horrible shit.
I mean, her reasoning is exactly the same as Ellie's.
Yeah.
There is no difference.
You killed one of my family members. I will avenge them.
But, I mean, I think... Is it Derek in the chat who's raised quite a valid point, actually? It's such a big game that I don't think I can remember where it goes next. Because we've said before, it's the first game is huge, but the second game feels like at least 4 crammed into one.
Yeah, it's... And because of the way they do the days in the game, which they can't do in the show, because it wouldn't flow from an audience standpoint. No. But they do like day 1, 2, 3, and then you go back and they do 1, 2, 3 again. They can't do that, but now they've used all the flashback points up as well. Next season has to be pure storytelling in a very linear fashion.
But I feel like between Abby's stories and between Ellie's stories and Dana's, it's such a big game that actually they probably could go anywhere. And I think the screenwriters have got such a task on their hands, which they're handling beautifully. Yeah. But it's such a big ask to convert this. This isn't just a matter of putting script to script.
Not anymore. They've used a lot of the script.
I mean, but how do you even start to tackle that much material? Yeah.
It's from a finale standpoint as well. You always like to end on something big and wanting people to come back for more. So I'd say death, but then who do you kill off now?
I don't know.
Like if Ellie goes and hunts down like Owen and Mel or Manny, that seems a bit premature because we don't know who they are. Really,
no, because you get all that sequence in like the arena or whatever it is, where actually you get to know Manny a little bit and you see their roommate relationship.
And that's where I think from a show they need to spend time with Manny, Owen, Mel, and Abby. So we like them as an audience.
Next episode, in the next season, maybe focus a bit more heavily in on them.
They're gonna have to.
Like give them their own season.
Because like if you're gonna kill them, like Nora, you don't really feel like you knew her, but because she's the first death, I guess it's a little bit inconsequential, and there's 4 more left. So
she was cool though.
She was
very cool.
And there's stuff we're waiting to see, but who knows? The teaser for next week didn't even give anything away. It showed a couple of scenes with Dean, a couple of scenes with Ellie, Jesse, and then that's it. So there might be deaths, there might not. I don't think.
Do you think we're going to get into the scars a bit more, maybe?
But then even then, I don't feel like Isaac's stories really... No. For one episode, they've got 50 minutes. I don't think you could do enough in that to
Isaac was really menacing, I thought.
He's great. I loved all the stuff they added in with
him.
Menacing. We do also have a kind of confirmation from Craig Mazin as well that season 4 has kind of been confirmed. He was doing some press tour stuff this week, and he did say that because of the manner of the narrative and the opportunities that they're afforded with HBO, this being a 7-episode series, there's no way to complete the narrative in a 3rd season. Yeah. So the writer and director of the show is saying, we can't tell this full story in one extra season.
Not if you want to do it justice. You could whiz through it and make it a bang average TV show, but it would feel wrong.
Yeah, and he said HBO have been fantastic with them. Yeah. He said they've been given
how many times have you said now it's movie quality? This isn't TV, it's movie quality.
Absolutely. And they've shortened this one to 7 episodes, and he said season 3 will probably be bigger from a narrative standpoint. Yeah. So they're doing what's right for them. And we found out with Game of Thrones, sometimes they would do massively long episodes, sometimes shorter, sometimes bigger seasons, and it varied in length, but it worked. You're no longer beholden to you need adverts every 20 minutes. The show needs to wrap up in an hour because Coronation Street's about to start or something. So because of that, I think they've got that freedom. But he says, hopefully, quote, we'll earn our keep to come back and finish it in a 4th season. So we've got 2 seasons potentially, maybe 5. So there's a lot to tell. There's the whole California. There's the Rattlers in California. There's a whole other factions.
Remind me.
The slaver people.
All right.
Who Abby ends up toiling with at some point. But we know nothing about Lev.
No.
Yara.
No, and I really enjoyed Lev and Yara as well. So
yeah, they've not even confirmed who's cast, so I'm guessing they haven't even cast them yet. So loads of stuff to do.
A few of the scars have come in, and every time they do that, I wonder if that's Lev. I wonder if that's Lev.
Yeah, there's a few.
You've done it a couple of times.
Derek in the chat says, yeah, like I think the next big thing is going to be Jessie next week.
Yeah.
Potentially, but I don't think we've had enough time with Jessie to care that much yet.
I think that's the worry, isn't it? Because you've had so little of him. They either really nail it in this one episode.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get to know this character.
Yeah.
And I think, he's definitely interesting.
Yeah. And Tommy, we know Tommy's been with Jessie. I think we could start next week's episode with...
I'd like to see a bit more Tommy,
maybe 20 minutes spent with Tommy.
Yeah.
Tommy hunts down, maybe finds out where Manny's stationed, or Owen and Melly sees a bit more of their life, what goes on with the WLF, or Scars. And he reports that back to them at the theatre.
A decent bit of Tommy confronting Ellie about going off on her own.
Yeah. Who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? He was my brother too, like more of that. But yeah, we've got, I guess, another hour left before this season wraps. Now, Nick, we always end each episode with looking at the best performance, the best moment, and the best game adaptation of the week. And the reason we brought you on is because you have played the games several times. You're watching the show week by week with myself, and unfortunately you have to listen to me and Richie talk about it on the side every week. Performance of the week then, where are you feeling the best and more? Who gets the Emmy for this week?
It's definitely a toss-up between Bella and Pedro. Both are spectacular. And I know there's been a lot of vitriol towards Bella Ramsey. I think they're perfect. But I do think Pedro takes it this one.
Why?
It's just the emotion in his face that you can say without saying anything. You know exactly what he's thinking, exactly what he's feeling.
Yeah.
I think I said to you at one point, he just looks like a lost puppy.
Yeah.
And he's just, I think he was phenomenal. He's had many, many, many great episodes, as has Bella.
Yeah.
But I do think Pedro steals it.
Yeah, I agree. I think a close second.
Definitely.
Any other week. And me and Richie joke all the time because we tend to give it to the same people because they have the most meat to work with. But yeah, in terms of performance, I think the porch scene. Yeah.
Could there be something to be said about Catherine O'Hara this one? I think she's doing a brilliant job.
She did a brilliant job as well. I don't think it was as emotionally charged as these scenes were. But then for a performance, I'd also say...
But watching somebody's heart literally break...
I'd also pair it with Pedro in the space shuttle capsule.
Yeah.
Because the way he did that emotion there, too. But
I do think Pedro steals it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to be said for the other actors in this.
Absolutely. Moment of the week then?
For me, it's the space shuttle.
The space shuttle scene.
Yeah. I said to you before, I had looked forward to this scene so long.
Yeah.
And I think I watched it with a big dumb grin on my face as well. It was everything that I wanted it to be, and it was that lovely moment of levity in what can be quite a dark show.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's such a sweet moment to see played out as well between a father and a daughter, and yeah, you're right, in a show of like murder and death and cannibals and stuff, to actually see a moment of just two people having a great time, celebrating just time with each other. So yeah, I'm happy to say the museum scene. I do think for a moment of the week the porch scene, just because it's so emotionally charged. But they're so close one for one. Like they're very different emotions. And
I think that's what actually makes it quite difficult to choose, doesn't it? Because if you're looking for that really heartbreaking emotion, definitely go for Balcony. If you're looking for just wonderful, go for the museum. Yeah,
the happy emotion.
Yeah, I'm going to lean more towards happy.
The sad emotion. Yeah, I can see why you would do that. And then the best game adaptation of the week, which is usually where we just say that like the best one for one, it's the game through and through. What would you say?
It's been a long time since I played, so I am a bit hazy on that. I know you've said the Balcony. I feel like you have.
Right.
Like either of them. I think the museum, you do lose a little bit because they don't explore it quite as much, which would be nice to see. But I also think what they do show is really, really, really good. Yeah.
The porch for you?
Yeah, probably the porch scene.
See,
seeing him sitting there with that cup of coffee and that guitar was pretty...
See, this is where when we get into the nitty-gritty of the game adaptation, I always think the porch scene, yes, it's one for one. It's pretty much word for word, except
But does it have to be one to one?
No, but it's where he says that I love you.
Yeah.
Like the love you. He doesn't say that in the game, so I think that adds another element. But for game adaptation, I'm always looking for the detail, the granular stuff from the game, and I think the museum with the T-Rex out the front, the space, the orrery that they made.
I like that word.
The capsule is like one for one. Like obviously, it's space capsule and looks so detailed, but. Getting in and the Walkman and the earphones and the way that they did that CGI space adventure, that was the game. Almost identical. And as much as I would have liked to see it pan out more, I think from playing the game, if you played them scenes side by side, you would almost think they were the same thing. So mine's the museum, I think, for best game adaptation. But that does bring us to the end of this week's episode. We always say run along to the comments, stalker us on social media at GamerGuild TV. Click on that notification bell, blow to yourself and all our other amazing content here, such as our weekly podcast, the GamerGuild Podcast, where myself, Richie, Tom, Rob sometimes get together to round up all the weekly gaming news. Every Monday that goes live at 8 a.m. here on YouTube and available on podcast platforms up there in the digital cloud. Just search for the GamerGuild Podcast or GamerGuild TV. We'll be back next Wednesday live, most likely with Richie, I'm afraid, because he's back from his vacation in France. And I don't have anything
to
plug.
You'll miss me.
I live with you, but I don't have anything to plug for you because you don't do any kind of social media kind of. But I do want to thank you for stepping in and helping out in Richie's absence. We did contemplate doing like a double episode next week, but then you know more about the show and the game than Richie does because we've played it several times over. Yeah. Richie did a little bit on the playthrough, which if you are interested in the game, there is a full part 1 and part 2 playthrough up. So if you need something to fill the gap between season 2 and 3. There's 30-40 hours worth of Last of Us content here on GamerGuild TV. But yeah, my name's been Chris.
My name is still Nicola.
Still Nicola. It's how we do the outro. But above all else, everyone, endure and survive. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
Bye.